Welcome in, guys. Welcome back to King Josiah TV, where the game of this channel was created to educate, promote, and influence the kingdom of Jesus Christ in this world. I am your host, Josiah. And guys, before we get started, please do me a great favor. If you're listening live or you're listening audibly, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. If you're listening on YouTube, if you're listening again on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, go ahead and give me the follow button. Let's go ahead and get into it, guys.
Watch giants fall like Goliath. David, I dance, this ain't no tick-tock. God told me that my steps was ordered. Walking in flip-flops, Chris Rock, how they laughed at me for...
All right, guys. So there's a brand new movie out by Disney, I believe, called Wicked. And to be honest with you, I didn't pay much attention to it. I mean, just at first glance, a movie named Wicked. It wasn't anything that I was too keen on listening to or watching, so I honestly didn't pay much attention to it. But a pastor named Jenny Weaver spoke on it, and I was like, the things that she brought up, I think, were very important, because I believe that some people didn't look at it that way, the way she brought it up, and things that we should be leery of pertaining to these films, that they're coming out and they're glorifying witchcraft. They're glorifying these things, and these things are allowing footholds in people's lives because they're watching these things and watching these particular type of movies. And we're going to play it here in a second, but Jenny Weaver really goes into detail about how these things can be really disruptive to our lives and can allow the enemy to wreak havoc on our lives if we allow these footholds and these openings to occur by watching something, as most people think, as innocent as a movie.
About witchcraft on my page, and I got a lot of different feedback on it, so I want to talk to you guys about it, and I want you to hear me out, because maybe you're thinking, these things they're not big deals. It's what's the harm? Or maybe you've justified it in some way. So I want to shed light on it from a different perspective that you might not know, or you may never have heard before. There's a difference between hearing, you shouldn't be dabbling into witchcraft from Christians. And then there's a difference between hearing it from Christians like myself, who have come out of it and were steeped in it heavily. Okay. So from my perspective of coming out of it, literally, I was in witchcraft, deep in it. Okay. So because of that, I do believe that the Lord has given me an authority in this area to speak on it. Okay. When I was a young girl, the way that I got into witchcraft, the way that I became a practicing witch and Wiccan is, you turn the heat on, is I went over to some friend's house in high school.
Guys, I'm not going to be doing much talking here. I'm going to let Jenny kind of vet this out, guys. I'm going to throw in some scriptures as we go, but just to know, I'm probably not going to be talking too much. You guys are going to just hear her.
And the movie, this was in 1996, the movie The Craft had been released. Thank you, Apostle Joshua Giles. Stephen and I love you so much. Apostle Joshua.
Hey, Apostle. Good to see you.
Isn't he awesome? So the way that I got into witchcraft was that the movie The Craft was out, and we watched The Craft. My mother said, you're not allowed to watch that movie. So I snuck out of the house, went to a friend's house. Their parents allowed the movie into the home. I watched the movie. And by the way, I feel the presence of the Lord. When I watched the movie, I saw four girls, and I saw them getting bullied in school. I saw them struggling in their home life, and they got into witchcraft, and they used witchcraft to gain quote unquote power. And so I'm watching this movie, and I'm living in a Christian home, and I knew better, but I saw it. The enemy used it to say, these same people that are bullying you, they were picking on my skin. They were calling me names. They would call me the ugly sister. I was one of three sisters. We all went to school together. They called me the ugly sister. It was just a lot. And when I saw the witches coming against their abusers and taking control of stuff with magic and witchcraft, I thought to myself, maybe I can try that. And that is exactly how the door opened. Not only did I watch the movie, but there's a scene in the movie from The Craft in 1996 where the girls all came together and they were doing spells and incantations, and they all decided to give themselves a tattoo. And they all, they did this like homemade tattoo.
We're going to let Jenny continue to talk here, but I want to bring up a verse about Satan and when people get into witchcraft and all these sort of things. One thing to kind of be looking out for is that people can unknowingly worship Satan, who's called an angel of light, by seeking answer from soothsayers and mystics. And so Revelation 12:19 says, and the great dragon was thrown down, the ancient serpent who was called the devil and Satan, the deceiver of the whole world. He was known to the earth and the angels, and were thrown down with him. The devil's been the great deceiver since the beginning of time. He always presents something to fix your problem, as Jenny was saying, to help have you control over your life and these sort of things, by saying, oh, I'm giving you this, I'm helping you out with this. He's the great deceiver, but behind his back, he's pulling you into hell. He's pulling you into damage. He's pulling you into a life that is going to drag you down and ruin you, not bring you up and not protect you.
Too. Me and the girls that night, we did the same thing. I have it on my belly to this day. It's a shooting star. I took a needle this big and began to give myself a tattoo. We were all sitting around and we pierced the skin. Blood was drawn. It was all around witchcraft. It was all around a false power. It was all around the demonic. And from that day forward, I spiraled into drug use and abuse. I turned from the natural affections of liking men to liking women. I got into every perverted thing you could fathom. I was sneaking out of my house. I was going to parties with adults. They were giving me drugs. This went on for 9 years, until the point where I was homeless, living out on the streets, meth addict, drug addict. Now, some of you are going, oh, well, it's just a movie. And it was just a movie for me too.
Mm-hmm. It always starts off as something small.
It was literally just a movie for me. But remember, the Bible talks about a foothold. Thank you, Stephen. Yep, he's over here. Open door. The Bible talks about a foothold. It talks about the little foxes. It talks about the leaven. And when you get a little bit into your life, you think that it's innocent. I'm telling you, some of you don't realize why you deal with nightmares. Some of you don't realize why you have demonic thoughts that just randomly appear in your head, random times of the day or the night. You don't realize why you hear demonic paranoia.
Again, guys, the devil plays for keeps. The devil's never going to let you play around with things. He's never just going to let you have a little bit. He's never just going to let you see in a little bit of things that are completely opposite of the kingdom of heaven and just walk away scotch-free. All these things, again, as Jenny said, you're leaving footholds open. You're leaving things open in your life and allowing the enemy in. And just as we were talking about in last week's podcast, that again, you have to let me rephrase that. You have to allow Jesus to be the head and the driver in every portion of your life. The parts that you don't leave him the driver in, that he's in the back seat on, these are the parts that the enemy is going to grab hold of and have dominion in your life. They can only have legal right if you give them that.
What is the word? Activity in your home. You got open doors and you got to close these doors. I opened doors, and I'm telling you, I literally paid the price for it for 9 years of my life. I was living in people's backyards, going to the bathroom outside like an animal, scratching my skin open. There was a point where I got into witchcraft and I believed that I had powers. I would go over to a drawer, as God is my witness. I remember these things happening in this home. I would go over to a drawer to open it. Before my hand touched it, it was opening. And the demons were doing things in the home. I'm just going to tell you what it was.
That's crazy.
But in my mind, they were convincing me, you're the one with the power.
It's crazy.
You have power. This is giving you power. You can control stuff. You can make people fall in love with you. You can make people go away. You can make people pay. You can make people whatever it was. And I remember taking drugs for the reason to invite deities, gods, goddesses, all this stuff into us. Me and the girls would sit around in a circle. People were giving us drugs. We're taking acid.
Guys, all these things, drugs, alcohol, weed, all these drugs that people take, even just as recreational, let's use weed as an example. People use these sort of things and ayahuasca things that we've talked about to try to come closer to the spirit realm, to try to access the spirit realm illegally. Again, we have to have our spiritual eyes open. Keep those spiritual eyes open, guys. Everything we cannot entertain. God said everything in the world is yours and you can have, but not everything is beneficial.
LSD, we were tripping, we were doing all this stuff, and we would say, come into us. And I literally got demon possessed. I had a deliverance session. This was after I came out of it. Years later, the demons did not go anywhere. They literally were laying dormant, wreaking havoc in all these areas of my life. I was in church. They put me on a platform. I was singing on the worship team. And after a couple of years of that, I went to a deliverance service and they cast demons out of me for a couple hours. I was climbing up the wall backwards. They had 3 people holding me down, strong men holding me. I'm 125 pounds, soaking wet. Literally, I'm tiny. And every demon that you could imagine had nested in me. I'm hearing multiple voices coming out of my own vocal box. It was like watching a movie. I was terrified. Y'all, just that Sunday before, I was singing, "How great is our God." And all the demons were let me sing it, let me go to church.
Mm-hmm.
It was a mess. And so, guys, I'm trying to tell you, I'm trying to help you. You don't need to let your children see this. They will aspire to want to be witches. And what the devil will do is he will slowly get them into witchcraft, which is any source of power that's not the Holy Ghost is a false source and
Amen.
should be rejected by Christians.
Amen.
Period. They got us. I'm going to tell you, they got us with The Wizard of Oz. Okay? We all watched it.
Mm-hmm.
They eased us.
Seen it a million times. I've seen The Wizard of Oz. I've seen the Oz, the black version of it. And the enemy does that. I mean, she's going to talk further into that. But I mean, that's all the enemy does. He gets little bitty footholds, little bitty things. Again, as I remember, I said earlier, the devil plays for keeps. He's as the Bible says, the devil is a roaring lion seeking who he may devour. You have to be conscious of these things. Every little thing that we interact with, we try to minimize things as not spiritual and not something that's that deep, but it is that deep, guys. It really is that deep. We fight not against flesh and blood, but principalities and rulers, guys, that are not of this world, that are trying to drag you away from God.
Into it. And now they don't flip the script on us. And now what they want to do is they want to create it in such a way that you go, I like witches. I can relate to witches.
Mm-hmm.
I side with witches. I'm rooting for witches. I'm champion witches.
Yep.
You guys are thinking it's just in a movie, but then later on it'll be your favorite celebrity. They come out as witches now, and y'all still just cheering them on.
And you think it's normal. He turns a lie and make you think it's truth.
It's crazy. So I just want y'all to be careful. That's all. I'm not saying that you're going to hell. I'm not saying that, you're not a Christian. I'm not saying anything negative about you. I'm not saying anything bad at all. I'm just trying to say you have to be careful. You guys, I opened up doors. When I think back on it, sometimes it makes me cry. Stephen was there with me for a lot of it.
And guys, she's just trying to simply save us from these things that she's directly experienced, that she's came out of. Why would you want to experience these things? Why would you want to live up these footholds? You have to have and go through these things that she's gone through. Yes, she's came out on the other side. God saved her. God covered her, as we talked about earlier. God is going to be with you. Even if you pick your bed in hell, Jesus will be with you. But why take that path? Why not be vigilant now? Why not keep these things out of your children's lives, out of your lives? Again, guys, this was her original post. I just wanted to read it. She said, Christians, be careful what you let into your spirit. I came out of witchcraft. And when I was a Wiccan, I thought it was innocent and no big deal. But as a progressive, in turn, scary and extremely demonic. It is a miracle I didn't lose my mind over these things and I engaged in it. There's an agenda demonize this generation to witchcraft and encourages our young people to even aspire and want to be witches, and it's a trap. Eventually, they will invite demons into their lives and turn away from God and everything the Bible stands for. Guys, that is so true there, what she's saying, because it speaks to, it speaks to Corinthians 2, 11 and 14. And no marvel, for Satan himself transformed himself into an angel of light. Proverbs 4 and 23 said, which states, above all else, guard your heart, for everything flows from it. So, guys, we have to be conscious of these type of movies and these type of programs that we're allowing our children to view, allowing ourselves to view. We have to be conscious of these things. All these things are simply things that the enemy is working towards to slowly and surely pull you away from God and make you think things aren't so bad and it's not that deep, and make you sit into it. Again, what did I say earlier? The devil plays for keeps. So I'll go ahead and make your decision on that Wicked movie, what you may. I wanted to bring just some relevance to that, guys. But we're going to go ahead and wrap up today's episode. This is episode 24 of the King Josiah TV podcast. Thank you for everybody for listening, for sticking along with me. We're going to, again, wrap it up here. If you're listening, guys, on YouTube, go ahead and smash the subscribe button, the like button if you haven't yet. The likes help the algorithm. They help me build the channel. They help us create more stuff and get these things out to you on a weekly and a daily basis. If you're listening audibly on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, go and give me that follow button, guys. Thank you guys again for listening, and I will see you guys next week.
But my salvation on me like it's a helmet. The way you to sin is death for send you to hell quick. Wanted to be all about me, God, I was selfish. I was rebellious, but you